You're listening to Cinemajaw, the greatest movies podcast ever, recorded on location from Cinemajaw Studios in Chicago. My name is Matty K, and with me is...
Rye the movie guy, and sitting to my left is Filmy and Phil.
Hello. Hello.
This week on Cinemajaw, Matt, we're just a bunch of talking animals.
Well, just like every other week.
Every week, we're just a bunch of talking animals.
Here's a question. Now, we famously, this is for deep jaw heads, once we're in an argument and Phil drew us as animals. I think they made you a alligator. Or no, I was the alligator. Phil, do you remember?
I do.
Okay, who was who?
What, you expect me to blow this wad?
Okay, all right.
So early?
You know what? No. Hold on to it. So my question I was going to ask you, Ryan, is if you were a talking animal, what animal would you be?
A rabbit.
Okay. I would see you more as, like, frankly, a monkey.
That's barely a change at all. Just give Ryan a tail and he's a monkey.
I would like to think of myself as a cat. It's probably not the case.
There's no chance you're a cat.
I would be, what's like an oafish, slow, and I'd be like a sloth.
I was going to say either a sloth. An alligator isn't that bad, just sort of a lump on the log, you know?
But
Vicious.
alligators are fierce, yeah.
Ancient. I mean, Matt K, this guy's geriatric.
Come on.
It has to be somewhat of a dumb animal, right?
Jesus.
An animal.
Oh, my God.
An animal.
Tell us what you don't
Shots
like
fired.
about the guy.
Oh, Jesus.
An animal that chases its tail. It
I
has
like a
to
cat. All right.
be right.
A dog.
Possibly.
Yeah, all right. I'll settle for dog.
We're talking about this, Jawheads, because our top 5 this week is our favorite talking animal performances / movies.
Movies. Not performances.
I went very strong on performances, not just necessarily the best movies with a talking animal. That's why I want to make that distinction.
All right. Well, we'll get to that when we get to our list, because I also set up some parameters for myself.
Okay.
We should really collab better on this, I think.
Well, it's tough to collaborate sometimes with you because I did ask specifically, like, let's go in this direction. You're like, no, I'm holding my ground.
And
like
you just went in that direction anyway.
Like a big, dumb dog, you know, chasing its tail. You just wouldn't leave it alone. You're like, this is what we're doing. This is what we're doing. This is what we're doing.
Yeah, because I was right.
Anyways, we're covering our top 5 favorite talking animal movies / performances.
Yeah, because it ties into both of the reviews we have this week, Ryan. We are covering the 100-year Disney anniversary film Wish, and we're covering the new Netflix movie with Adam Sandler, Leo.
Exactly.
Both animated films, both featuring talking animals.
Exactly. Talking lizard in the case of Leo.
And a turtle.
And a turtle.
Yep.
We'll talk about those films. Plus, we're still celebrating Paul Giamatti month. And in honor of Wish, which stars Chris Pine as one of the voices, we are going to play Stump the Kubinski Chris Pine movie trivia.
I'm a pine nut. Turns out. True story. That's what his fans are called, Ryan. It's like the Swifties for Taylor Swift, you know?
Bunch of pine nuts.
Pine nuts, yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
He's an excellent actor, to be honest.
Is he?
I believe so.
Yes. And so
Really?
dreamy. Yes.
Well, dreamy. No arguments. Excellent actor.
I
I'm going
believe
to push
so.
back on that a little bit.
You loved Dungeons and Dragons last year.
I did. I thought it was amazing. But would I say, like, oh my God, Chris Pine is an amazing actor?
And don't say last year. It's not that long ago. That was
This year?
summer.
That was this year? Jeez Louise.
That was spring of this year, Dungeons and Dragons.
I was looking over the list of movies I saw this year, and there were a few. I was like, whoa, that was this year. It's November,
I
you
agree.
guys.
I agree.
Yeah.
All right, let's kick this jaw off with a Paul Giamatti fact.
Yes, I like to think of us as iterative, right? So in this example, from 8 years ago or something, Matt was called an alligator by Rye the movie guy, and Matt K called Rye the movie guy a penguin.
Penguin, yes, that's it.
Look at us now, a rabbit and a dog. We're back on the scale of Chinese zodiac. That didn't happen last time. And just like we are iterative in our spirit animal essences, we're iterating off of our Paul Giamatti facts that we've already had. Okay, and we're going back to baseball.
Okay.
Back to baseball for Paul?
We're
How could
going
this
back
be?
to baseball. We already know his dad banned Pete Rose. We already know the Giamatti family was cursed forever after that. But there's even more baseball in this man. Growing up, This is like this is like something that I have to imagine is like on Paul Giamatti's Tinder bio. He did an interview with The Believer where he was mentioning how he is oddly fascinated by baseball umpires. Of all the things that you can talk to Paul Giamatti about, it's just like, what are your thoughts on umpires? I don't know. But there's apparently a lot here. He would go on to say, I don't think it had anything to do with their authority, which, for the record, nobody asked you this, Paul, which is now making me think it had something to do with their authority.
You're making it oddly creepy, you know? Like maybe Paul Giamatti's got some kind of umpire fetish.
It's weird. It is weird. I think Paul is making it oddly creepy.
Okay, go on.
He would go on to say it was more a fascination with the appearance of the home plate umps. They wear those old school chest protectors, and the mask that they're always dressed in is black. There's something weirdly sinister about those cats. And of course, I've always been drawn to the ancillary supporting players in drama. If you look at a game of baseball as a narrative, the umps are the bit players. They're the character actors. In almost every situation, I'm invariably invested in the people that nobody pays much attention to.
That's really interesting.
It is. I like, believe it or not, a very animated ump. I know what he's talking about. Like behind the plate, sometimes when they call him out, especially like on a big called strike three, you know,
ejects the manager.
Yeah, they throw out on the big outside, or when they eject the manager. I love when an umpire gets animated. So I'm a fan of the umps.
I do agree with his thing about the chest protectors too. I always thought they looked like Ninja Turtles
or Darth Vader.
No, I thought Ninja Turtles.
Well, that may be a generational thing. I mean, I don't disagree. Interesting.
I did not know we would be talking so much baseball on Paul Giamatti Month.
I am not drinking any fucking Merlot.
But here we are talking baseball with Paul.
We haven't talked wine once.
I know.
We have to get a new clip.
We got to have him. Has Paul Giamatti ever sang "Take Me Out to the Ball Game"? Find that clip, Matt.
Can we throw that in the fish tank? I mean, find out. If he ever has, we'll get that clip.
Good stuff. On to our first review, Matt. The name Jennifer Lee. You might not know the name, but she is best known for writing the film Frozen and Frozen 2. And she is back with a new Disney film called Wish. The movie has been in development since 2018 and was officially announced in September of 2022. Billed as a musical fantasy film, the computer-generated animation is supposed to be accompanied by Disney's historical watercolor animation. It is an original story, but also is supposed to celebrate 100 years of Disney. Matt Kay, Phil, and I headed to the Magical Kingdom to check it out.
Once upon a time stood Rosas, a most magical kingdom, founded by a king with the power to grant wishes.
You are their handsomest, most beloved king.
You're right. I am a handsome king.
I'm so nervous I think I'm going to explode.
My best friend, the king's apprentice.
My mouth drooping? I feel like it's drooping.
In the kingdom of Rosas, a 17-year-old girl named Asha senses a darkness that no one else does about the kingdom's ruler, King Magnifico. This leads to her making a passionate plea to the stars. In response to her wish, a star, named Star, comes from the sky and is revealed to have magical powers. Together, Asha and Star must overcome the evil in Rosas and fight for a better future for their people. Let's start with our initial takes on Wish. Matt?
Jennifer Lee wrote this? That's what you're saying?
Jennifer Lee. You don't know who Jennifer Lee is. I'm not talking about Jennifer Jason Lee.
No, I know.
Okay.
Yeah. It doesn't matter because, no, Jennifer Lee went to ChatGPT and told it to give it the most generic Disney script based on all the other Disney movies and just verbatim took what ChatGPT gave. I mean, who names a character that is a star? Star. I mean, SpongeBob, that's about it. Terrible, lazy writing. There are some moments. There are some decent musical numbers. But overall, this is a trite and lazy mess of a movie. I like the fantasy elements. Again, I like the musical numbers. There's nothing here. This is absolute drivel. I'm actually angry at this movie.
Wow. So you were not a fan that they were celebrating the 100 years angle of Disney. You didn't care for that at all.
Okay, I like Disney. I'm going to go out.
Do you, Matt?
I'm going to go out on that
line
limb.
now, sitting across this table
I
from
like
you,
Disney.
it seems like you don't like Disney.
I like Disney.
You
but
don't have a heart. Why don't you have fun anymore?
I'm not just going to take whatever shit they shovel out, Ryan. I'm going to actually do my job as a critic and criticize it, because this was no 100-year celebration that was worthy of the mouse. This was terrible. At every turn, look, terrible.
I wouldn't say terrible.
So it was utterly predictable. You know exactly what's going to happen from the outset. The musical numbers were good. I mean, obviously they're super highly produced and they get the most talented people. But like, you know, when they have that big number and the swell, this was a theater that was packed with families, right? We were allowed to bring our whole families. I had my kids. Sometimes when Disney has a big number, you're just like, wow. And maybe even people applaud. There was that applause break at one of the numbers, like the apex of the movie. Crickets. And I'm not talking about Jiminy Crickets. Every other beat of the film is navel gazing for Disney. And it's right on the nose. They clobber you over the head with references to themselves. It's like mirror, mirror on the wall. Who's the fairest of them all? We are. And that's also the theme of the movie, it turns out, with this Magnifico character. Like, did they think that one fully through?
Well, I'm wondering if they did, and they were brave enough to say, yes, we can be the villain at times as well, because this was pointed out.
Are you serious?
Possibly. This was pointed out as soon as Phil came out of the theater, jokingly talking about how Disney is Magnifico. And possibly they obviously wrote the movie, so maybe they're looking at it being a double-edged sword. They grant us our wishes, but they're also
the keeper of the wishes and the destroyer and the eater of wishes.
And they understand that. And this is them trying to address this. We move over to Phil. Your initial take on Wish.
I don't know, because I actually disagree with what Ryan's saying a little bit. In the sense, I for the record, I am so net positive on this film. I could not disagree more with Matt's triteness element. I think that...
why are you clapping?
Just to get you pissed.
Yeah, just to make you upset. But I will say, right, Narcissia is like a very main front and center theme in this film. And I think what frustrates me about it is that I don't think, lean into enough how Narcissia is kind of a common element in all of us. Every single one of us has an ego at the end of the day. And like the main villain has this song about how he's pissed off that he's like trying to do his best for, and I understand that is like a narcissistic manipulation thing, and I see where they were going for that. But there was also moments of this where I'm like, yeah, they're right. I've had this feeling before, and I don't think they play into enough. It's not on the nose like that. And if they are implying that all of us are kind of like that, Disney is supplanting and taking this ownership over our happiness, like they're trying to do at the end of the film. Well, I don't even think they're trying. I think it is just color blindness. I don't know. I wish...
You mean tone deafness?
Yes. Yeah. Just like very unaware of what they are doing themselves.
So you're
borderline hypocritical.
How are you net positive then?
Because if you ignore...
So if you ignore the movie, it's great.
If you ignore the
bad writing?
I don't want to say the bad writing. If you ignore... This is a children's film. Let's start with that. I also think, like, for me, this is like perfect life foreshadowing, right? Before we even enter the theater, I'm talking to Ryan about my Halloween, and I'm like, at 30, none of these people at the Halloween party I was at dressed up at all. We're all too old and curmudgeonly, and their dreams have died. In the theater, I'm talking with your wife about how, like, at my age bracket, I'm frustrated with how, like, all my friends, their dreams are dying. They don't want to do anything on a Thursday night anymore. We're all becoming boring.
Welcome to your 30s, pal.
That's what they want you to think. You're the Magnifico.
Right.
You're the Magnifico.
Because your dreams
You're
are
the
crushed, Matt
Magnifico
K. You
now.
don't got to crush our dreams.
I'm
Matt.
not crushing
My
anybody's
wish
dreams.
is still active and still mine.
Crusher.
No, Magnifico crushed your dreams, man. I'm just a cog in the wheel.
My dreams are fine. You're the one who tried to crush them. You crushed my friend's dreams.
I didn't make this.
Magnifico.
I didn't make this movie.
Piss on you, Matt.
This movie
I loved
sucked.
it. I loved it. I guess, and that's my point of saying, if you're a curmudgeonly millennial, this film was optimistically made for you, especially with all of the nods to previous Disney. I think it's optimistic lens on like, live your best life. Don't let anybody steal your happiness. I think it's great. I think it's so. While they did not create a compelling villain, and the point that they were trying to make with the villain fell flat, the rest of it's awesome.
I was sitting next to my 9-year-old son, Quinn, who has no filter. God bless him. And that's the best thing about all 9-year-olds. After the movie, I turned and said, "What'd you think?" He said, "Eh." That sums it up, right?
Didn't win over. We were looking for a quote from Quinn.
We'll get one.
No, our quote should have been that.
To be fair, he's so excited about giving his thoughts on this film. He's probably going to give it a glowing review just to be super thorough. But his honest hot take was, eh.
All right, so Chris Pine plays Magnifico, the villain who I guess was the weak point for most of us. Because as we said coming out of there, boy, you see this one coming from a mile away.
Yeah.
They didn't even hide the fact or try to hide the idea that
Because how could you?
it was going to be the king, was going to be the... So we're not even going to call that a spoiler, Jawheads. It's pretty much there. If you've watched more than 10 movies in your life, you see where this is going.
Or if you read a bedtime story.
Right.
Yeah.
It's pretty on the nose on that. But his singing, I was commenting about Chris
Was
Pine
that him
being,
singing? No.
Yes.
Wow. Good for him.
He's excellent. And he's
agree.
been in a musical before. He's done some singing. I thought his singing was on par, but not
Definitely.
quite on the level of Ariana DeBose, who
No.
plays the lead. She
Sure.
was excellent in here, and we got to point her out because the music in this, the musical numbers are very well done. As you're saying, Matt, it's a Disney film. It's going to be well produced. You know, everybody compares it to every other Disney movie. So right away, your wife said, yeah, but they weren't as catchy songs as Moana. Probably true. I've only seen Moana once.
Categorically true.
Okay, categorically true. All right, fine. However, people have lived with Moana or whatever movie they're going to compare this to for a long time and have watched this multiple times. We just saw this one time. So to not say that ending song especially
All right, fair.
isn't going to come through for a lot of kids, I think would be false. I do think you need to spend a little bit of time with this one, and I thought the music here was a highlight for me.
I have some positive things to say about Wish. There is a rebellion theme, you know, where the people rise up against...
That was awesome.
Yeah. And if anything, that was my favorite moment. Like, I'm like, oh, this is actually a little subversive. And I'm kind of interested that Disney would go out on this limb. When you look at it in the context of the whole film, it's a little confusing. But if you just take it at face value, good on them. Good on them.
I will say, Jennifer Lee clearly has had like some really horrible exes or something, because like...
Yeah.
Like that bit about like, I've been there. I was feeling it when they were like, I know who you are now, you stupid liar. Everything you've said is a bunch of horse shit. Now I know. That song was awesome. That's what I'm saying. It's like for millennials who are like kind of begrudging to restore their optimism. It was awesome. It was awesome.
Good take from Phil. Let's talk about the animation here. Crossover between the computer animation and this classic watercolor style. So
Beautiful.
it was awesome. The background here was that classic Disney animation style. So
Right.
a lot of times these characters would be in the forefront, and in the background you would actually
Look like
see
cells.
right.
Or like matte paintings.
Matte paintings is what I was thinking. And I loved the combination of the two, and I thought they blended them really well.
They did.
So much so that when the star finally comes out and everything gets really bright because the stars, the way it's lit to the other characters looked fantastic, but it also added like an extra layer of color at that point, and the film really picks up spirit-wise at that time. I thought that animation sequence was excellent, so I'm here for it.
I loved so much of it. I also, even on like a character design level, truly and genuinely loved that all of Asha's friends are homages to, because it's the 100-year celebration, to different Disney characters. Even Asha herself is an homage to.
That's what I was trying to figure out. Who is she?
It's a
Cinderella?
spoiler. It's a spoiler if I tell you.
Okay, all right.
It's
We can do that off.
Literally, like they say it at the end, Ryan. Like, am I going crazy? Like, they spell it out for you at the end. We'll get to this later. Okay. But I think it's super cool. I'm just going to say that she has a singular short friend. And like, I love.
She might even have 7 of them.
I loved seeing how they made these painterly 3D. And you can totally tell, too. I think that's super cool. You can tell that it's updated and revised, but you know exactly who it is at the same time. It's like when you see someone whose kid is the spitting image of them. Super great character design, in my opinion.
You didn't like this aspect of it.
The homage aspect of it?
It seemed like that annoyed you.
I like homage. If honestly, I didn't pick up on the 7 dwarves thing until later in the film. Once all the other homages clobbered me over the head. There's a moment in this movie where some magic goes astray and animates a quill to start drawing on a piece of paper. And we see the quill drawing the mouse ears. I'm like, really? And then we hear the do-do-do-do-do. I'm like,
I got
really?
misty-eyed. Yeah, I got misty-eyed. It hit me.
And honestly, that's not even the only time we see the Disney logo. Logo, by the way, I want to remind you, this is a corporate logo. It's like if Nike made movies putting the swoosh in it. It's totally... I liked the 7 Dwarves reference. Fine. I am curious to find out who you think the main character was, because I didn't really draw a hard conclusion on that. But the homages are not homages when they're just like dropped like anvils on your head.
I don't know if they always are. I will say, and this is kind of what my point is with being frustrated with like the concept that they were going with the villain here, and not to double down on it, but it is very self-aggrandizing of a film. And with the homages, I do think we should point out that it's like a little bit of a Disney circle jerk.
Thank you.
But again, like that's kind of normal.
We
all have pep talks in the mirror, but we're not all like coveting people's happiness and being dirtbags. But we all have pep talks in the mirror. We all get frustrated that we're not getting thanked for the hard work we're doing. And I wish that they had a little bit more of the self-awareness. I do think Ryan is.
It's a movie about looking at themselves with a villain who is obsessed with looking at himself.
Right, right.
Were they saying that? I don't think they were.
I do not think it was self-aware in that sense at all.
Right. So they made a mistake. This is a misstep in that sense, and it's tone deaf in a way. Yeah. And by the way, you can't have a little bit of a circle jerk. It's either
all in or there's no.
This is happening.
There's
or it's
degrees.
not.
There's degrees.
No, there's no
like,
degrees.
You know, like there's 7 circle jerks on the way to hell of varying degrees.
So because we're talking animals, I did want to mention Alan Tudyk plays Valentino, a goat who is granted the wish of being able to speak. So
Best part of the movie.
This is a common thread in most Disney movies. You're going to have a sidekick, and it's going to be a funny sidekick, usually a talking animal, 90% of the time.
Often.
And I want to say, I thought his character it wasn't the best sidekick I've ever seen.
No.
But very serviceable. Another highlight for me here.
I agree. Ryan, I'm surprised you're not making fun of me for my iconic. Every time we go to a movie, Ryan will point out that I'm always chuckling. And the goat absolutely had me giggling.
The goat was funny. I mean, is he Donkey? No, he's not Donkey, but he was pretty good. I like the goat.
Jaw-dropping moment here. What was the best moment? Something that you would highlight? For me, it is the ending number. The moment of rebellion. I don't know what the name of that song was. We're All Stars, or I don't know what it was.
That was good.
I don't know either, but it was very emotional, provoking.
Yeah, for me, that ending with the music swelling up, I could feel a little emotion in me.
Okay.
Good.
I'd go earlier in the film, another number where the king is talking about protecting the dreams and the wishes, and there's actually a duet with him and the main character. I thought that was the best musical number. It had the greatest visuals, and that was really I was still invested at that point.
I think it's a testament for as much as we were slam dunking on the music, all three of us are picking different musical sequences for this, and they're different musical sequences because my favorite number from this is also my jaw-dropping moment. And it's, again, this is a movie made by a millennial, which is such a cool thing to see, like the lessons that my age range wants to teach children. But there's like, it's very snowflakey, but in a heartwarming and millennial kind of way song when you first meet the star character where the animals are singing and saying like, I'm a star, you're a star, we're all stars. And it's super snowflakey, but in a very optimistic and heartfelt way. I liked it a lot.
I did too.
I'm a snowflake, so I loved it. I'm a millennial snowflake. I'm a star, you're a star. You're a star, Matt Kay.
I am a star. I like that moment too. Good musical numbers. No arguments here.
All right, let's go around the room here. How many Jaws? We'll start with Matt Kay since we think he's going to be the low man on the totem pole.
I am. Listen, if we're being honest, this is low Disney. It's too inward glancing, too over the top, clobber you over the head with its navel gazing. 1.5 Jaws.
Oh my God.
It's a not recommend for Matt Kay.
Oh my God.
Skip this. It's no Moana.
Here it goes back to Moana.
I
again.
love Moana.
I love Moana too, and I will agree it is no Moana.
No, and
Nothing will be.
I'm not going to throw on heaping praise here and go 4 Jaws or anything crazy, but I am recommending this one. I'd put it right in the 2.5 Jaw category.
You're crazy, but okay. All right, fine.
2.5 Jaws for Wish for me. I'm not going to sit here and talk about navel gazing like Matt Kay. I'm just going to say impressed with the animation, liked the music, thought the message of the movie was good. Go see it with the family. It's a good holiday flick.
Despite its flaws, I genuinely did love this film. And I'm going to go a little bit against my gut here because I want to say 3.5. I feel that strongly about it, but I'm going to go with 3 because I think some of this is recency bias.
We literally just walked out of the theater 15 minutes ago.
Yeah, very fresh.
All right, Wish opens up November 22nd. That is the Wednesday before Thanksgiving. So check it out, Jawheads.
Here's my prediction. We just saw this. I will be vindicated by the critics. People will side with me on this one.
Okay.
This is minor Disney.
Is this one of those where we can watch the audience score
we should bet
on Rotten Tomatoes?
We should bet with our poker chips.
Okay.
What did we say the rules were for that?
Well, you could throw down a bet. Each one of these chips is worth $1.
I want to get in on this because the last time we did this, it was Elemental, and I was the lowest on this, which, like, and you guys are saying I was crazy at that time, but retroactively, the response has been in agreement with me. I am so confident in myself right now.
Well, here's the thing. It's 2 against 1. So if I bet $5 and you guys each bet $5, I stand to win 10 and you only stand to win 5.
$2.50.
$2.50. Well, I'll bet 10 so you could each win 5.
All right, I'm in on that. What's the score, though? What are we trying to get to? Just a fresh audience score?
No. Critics. I said the critics will agree with me.
Oh, okay. You're going critics. Yeah, I think this will be fresh.
Here's
We're in
how we
good
do
hands
this.
then.
Here's how we do this.
Fresh. Yeah.
Fresh is 60% or higher. That's all
It's
we
coming up to our time of the year, okay? We're doing our tops. I'm talking Tallarico. I'm talking Childress. Everybody that we're getting on, all our critic friends, we interview them personally.
I'm going to
That is
say
how we measure this. We're not going by the Rotten Tomatoes. We're going by the GDC jaw scale.
I'm going 70%. We have to go Rotten Tomatoes. 70%.
It's 60% is fresh.
Understood. I'm saying it's going to be 70% or lower. Agreed? Bet?
So we got to go higher than 70?
Yes.
I thought you said fresh. Fresh is 60.
I want to say it's going to be fresh,
You
but
can't
barely.
bet like this.
This is my bet.
You
This is
said
my.
fresh. Fresh is 60.
I never said fresh. Roll the tape.
I'll let you
65.
two. I'll let you two bet it out.
65.
I'm taking my
Let's
chips
just-
off. I don't like the way Matt's betting here.
I never said that.
No,
65. 65.
this is between you two.
All right, 65.
65.
$5.
In between. Let's do it.
There it is.
There it is. It's been witnessed by the Jawheads.
Yep.
This bet is binding.
Unless this episode comes out after the critical responses and I can delete it if I'm wrong.
What was nice is sitting there was Matt was one of the critics that brought his family. So you had Heather, Quinn, and Parker. But then right in front of us, you got a Brian Tellerico. He's got his 3 sons with him.
His whole tribe,
We
yeah.
saw Don come in with his kids. It was like a
It was fun.
It was like bring your kids to work day for the Koreans.
It was. That was kind of fun.
It was kind of cool.
Leo was there with his kid.
And Leo was there with his kid. Yeah, it's great getting to know all these people. So, all right, it is again playing in theaters November 22nd. When you see it, Jawheads, always shoot us an email, feedback@cinemajaw.com. Let us know what you think of Wish. Talking Animal and Wish, Talking Animal and Leo. That's our topic this week, our favorite talking animal movies. You set some type of difficult parameters for yourself,
I didn't set
Matt.
difficult parameters.
What did you set? You set some sort of rules for yourself.
The animals have to talk, and in order for animals to talk,
no
they
shit.
have to talk to humans. If they're not
That's our top 5.
if they're not talking to humans, they're not talking animals. They're just stand-ins for animals. They're living in a different world at that point. So my picks are all animals living in the human world that talk to humans or can talk in a human world. So
This was not discussed very well, so I do not have the same rules as Matt K, but I like those rules.
I mean, I think that's the heart of it. And I'm going to start at number 5 with the animated film, The Phantom Tollbooth, based on the children's novel. This is only my number 5. Do you remember this movie?
I still have never seen this movie. I know.
It starts off live action and then it goes into animation. And he meets a talking dog, and there's all kinds of talking. There's a talking humbug. I forget. There's other characters. It's been so long since I've read the book or seen the movie. Great fantasy, bizarre, weird, kind of Alice in Wonderland, but a little bit more masculine, and not in a bad way, just a little bit more geared toward masculinity. So I think maybe a little bit more relatable to boys in this sense. Great movie. Good musical numbers. 70s animation. Really weird, like old Hanna-Barbera style. I love Phantom Tollbooth. Colorful, bright, loud. Phantom Tollbooth.
I'll write this one down in the journal.
It's worth it. And
Can we see if it's streaming anywhere? Maybe I'll even put it on today.
I read the book to
Give
Quinn.
me the runtime on it also, will you? Need to know if I can knock it off on a night after a podcast. I like a nice short animated movie sometimes.
4 out of 5 on Goodreads. I'm sorry, 4.5, the book.
On Goodreads.
Yeah.
Nice.
It's a short read, so I encourage you to read it.
Okay, on to my number 5, and let me set my parameters because I didn't go with Matt where they had to be in the human world.
I should have talked to you about this.
I was really looking for towards, and what I wanted the list to be geared towards, but Matt wouldn't budge on the list at all, was I wanted it to be geared towards more about the casting of the person who's doing the voice of the animal. That was my fascination with this list. I thought, well, there's sometimes when I'm watching these, since I'm an adult without kids, but I watch these because I'm a critic. So I'm watching some of these movies that most people my age wouldn't be watching unless they were trying to like knock off, certain movies for end of the year lists like myself. And what I find fascinating and I get a kick out of is how well sometimes they're casted with a particular actor voicing an animal. And I thought, well, there's some times where the whole cast is great, and then there's times where it's just one animal that's great. And so I tried to do a mix of both. Some a whole cast, sometimes just one talking animal.
You better not have stolen one of mine based on that.
So that's what I went with. So my number 5 pick is one of them where it's the whole cast. And after I actually wrote this down and I put it as my number 5, I thought, God, it almost could be my number 1 because I love the casting so well. And it's the Kung Fu Panda movies. And in particular, the first one. Po, who is the star, is voiced by Jack Black. Absolutely hilarious as the Kung Fu Panda. But it's the supporting characters that really are the shining stars in this one.
Scarlett Johansson, right?
Dustin Hoffman as the elderly and strict Red Panda, who I love in there. You also have Angelina Jolie.
Jolie, yeah.
Yes, as the Master Tigress. She's fantastic. Seth Rogen is in there as the Mantis. Hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
Lucy Liu. There we go. Lucy Liu is the Master Viper. Fantastic. David Cross is in there as a crane. Jackie Chan pops up as the Master Monkey. Hilarious. And it goes on and on. There's so many good ones in here. This is a case where the voice casting in Kung Fu Panda is reason enough to watch these movies. There's tons of them, but I do recommend the main ones because there's offshoots of Kung Fu Panda now. But the main three, Kung Fu Panda 1, 2, and 3, all fantastic.
No arguments here. Those are great family movies that you can just put on. And if, as an adult, you're a fan of martial arts movies, I think you can get a little something out of that. They're good movies. I like them. Good pick, Ryan. There was a time in the 80s, Ryan, when Matthew Broderick, if you asked me who my favorite actor was, he might have been my answer. I mean, we had War Games. We had Ferris Bueller, you know? Matthew Broderick's stock at the Kubinski house was at an all-time high in 1987.
It really slopes down after those two.
No, I mean...
You loved Cable Guy. It was on your top 5 like 2 weeks ago.
Cable Guy is another one, yeah.
But that's now into the 90s at that point. But, okay.
I think maybe even the
80s.
aughts, right? Cable Guy?
I don't think the aughts.
It's the 90s.
I'll bet 90s?
I'll bet you $2 it's the 90s. You want the aughts? I got $2 on this one.
No. Okay. I'm not going to take that bet.
All right, no bet.
But can we throw it in the fish tank?
Throw it in the fish tank.
Okay. Do you guys remember? This was a VHS one for me where I would rent this from the store. Project X. Do you recall this movie?
I've seen it, yes, with the monkey.
Yeah. So I'll read you the synopsis really quick. As punishment for minor offense, Air Force assigns pilot Jimmy Garrett, played by Broderick, to watch over a group of chimpanzees used for military experiments. Jimmy bonds with Virgil, a chimp capable of communicating with sign language, but when he witnesses the military's plan to kill the animals with radiation, Jimmy enlists the help of Terry McDonald, played by Helen Hunt, the graduate student responsible for teaching sign language to Virgil to free the chimps. It's an age-old moral quandary about like advancing human technology at the cost of animal life.
But I can't remember. Does the chimp actually talk?
Yeah. Well, define talking.
So
communicate.
You're saying just sign language.
Just sign language. Yeah. No, there's no verbal talking. But would you say that a person who's hearing impaired who communicates via sign language isn't talking? No. I mean, they're communicating. They're speaking. They're using language to get an idea across. So in that sense, it's a talking animal. It's a bit of a stretch, but this is in the real world. And I also wanted to pair it with a 1978 documentary entitled Koko, the Talking Gorilla, which is the inspiration for this film, at least in some small part, right? And it's a true story about, obviously, documentary, a gorilla who learned sign language. And this is something that's been done again and again and again. There's intelligence there.
No Planet of the Apes?
Not this time.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
I'm curious about this movie, that it's not inspired by that.
I mean, Project X?
Yeah.
No doubt it probably somewhat is, but it's more related to Koko because at the time I think there was a lot of exposés about like makeup being tested on chimpanzees and like, which is a total waste of their lives.
And complexion.
Yeah.
Totally not their colors.
Well, it was coming out in the news at this time. It was a timely movie, and Matthew Broderick. Need I say more? And Helen Hunt.
I forgot that Helen Hunt was in it. To be honest, I have not seen that movie in who knows how long, but I have seen Project X.
Love this movie.
My number 4 pick is one of the movies where I'm talking about where one talking animal makes the whole entire movie. It's another animated movie, has a lot of talking creatures in there, princesses. I'm speaking of Shrek. And the character in particular is Donkey.
Yeah.
Voiced by Eddie Murphy. I mean, I remember being semi-excited for Shrek, but not sure exactly what to make of it. It was DreamWorks Animation. It wasn't Pixar. And I was like, all right, let's check it out.
Disney, yeah.
We'll go see Shrek. And I was like blown away. But the thing that I walked out of, especially the first time seeing it, I walked out of it was nothing but talking about Donkey and Eddie Murphy and how funny it was cast. Him voicing this donkey, and that they named him Donkey. There was no name for the donkey. They just call him Donkey.
That's like if you have a Star character, just calling it Star.
It works sometimes, Matt. It works. And it worked for Donkey, and it worked for Star today and Wish. But yes, Eddie Murphy voicing in Donkey and Shrek is got to be noted when you're talking animals.
My favorite sequence is when Lord Farquaad has the gingerbread man. I mean, I don't think I need to explain that one.
It's a great one.
Oh my God. So funny. All right, that swings it to me. I'm going with one of the best voice performances of all time. And Ryan, this could be on your list, given your parameters. Going with Disney's Aladdin. The talking animal is Iago, the parrot, voiced by Gilbert Gottfried.
Good old Gilbert.
I think he may have done some of the animated TV show because they made a series, or they just had a sound alike. But Iago's voice was so particular. It was pretty much Gilbert Gottfried's character, his main stage character that he always did. But it just lent itself to the evil henchman. And Iago had a redemption story. See, back in the day, Disney actually had some complexity to their scripts.
Oh, boy.
Where we would have a sidekick who also had a story arc. And by the way, there were no story arcs in Wish. Just want to point that out. None. Everybody ended pretty much the same as they began. But Iago was an evil sidekick who reveled in misery and pain, who actually saw the error of his ways and came full circle into being a good guy.
And it was voiced by Gilbert Gottfried. That's all I remember.
Yep.
That's all you need to know.
I know. Who cares about his story arc here, Matt? Let's talk about Gilbert Gottfried and that wonderful voice that he had.
He did have a great voice.
Talk about that. Like, you can't have a Gilbert Gottfried sound alike. No one has ever had a good Gilbert Gottfried impression. I will die on that hill.
I wouldn't argue. You're right.
All right, my number 3 pick, I go back to a film with a large cast that made the talking animals work so well. And I think this one's actually underrated in the sense I don't think enough people have seen it. I'm going with Zootopia for my number 3 pick. I've been meaning to rewatch this one again because I know we saw it at a screening. Did you see it or no?
Oh, yeah.
In the screening? I believe we
were all three there.
We were all
all
three
of us.
there.
Okay, yeah.
And I've seen it multiple times at home.
I've never seen it since that screening. I've passed it by on, I guess it's on Disney Plus or on one of the
This is what
streamers.
happens when you have children, right?
And I'm like, man, I got to watch that Zootopia again. It was
It's
really good.
It's good on a rewatch.
Yeah, but the cast is fantastic. The highlight here, Jason Bateman plays a sly fox in the movie. But when you go down the list, you have Jenny Slate plays a sheep. You have Idris Elba as a buffalo. You have Bonnie Hunt as a bunny. J.K. Simmons as a lion. Octavia Spencer as an otter. The list goes on and on. So, again, it's one of these where they have a large cast. They fit it hilarious to the different animals. There's a sloth involved.
The sloth jokes are the best.
Absolutely fantastic. And yes, there's no talking to humans here, but it is basically all the different animals living in this city and the traits of the animals and, how
It's
it
a way of
relates.
stereotyping that is somehow politically correct.
It works because it's a cartoon and we're talking about animals,
Right.
but it
And
makes it fun.
Nobody cares about a DMV employee's feelings. Not even the DMV employee. So we can't hurt them.
Yeah, they're that low on the totem pole.
Yeah.
Good pick, Ryan.
That's my number 3. What's
no-
your 2?
No arguments. My number 2 is The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. It's right in the title. There is a talking lion, talking badgers and gophers and beavers, and all kinds of other woodland rodents and creatures.
Do you count a fawn as a talking animal?
Well, this is an interesting point. We had this discussion on the walk home. I can't remember exactly what creature we were discussing, but I said
Mushu from Mulan.
Mushu from Mulan. I said that's not an animal, that's a cryptid. So with The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe in particular, you don't need to count Mr. Tumnus, the fawn, because you also have Mrs. Beaver, who takes in the children, and they're Aslan, the lion. So do I count Tumnus? No, because he's more humanoid than animal.
Who voiced Aslan in the movie? Was that
Liam
Neeson? I
Yeah.
thought so. Okay.
Yeah.
That's another one I've only seen one time.
It's not that strong, if I'm being honest. The movie's okay, and the unfortunately the sequels, it's just kind of a downward slope.
Right.
You're never going to top the book.
I don't know if it's completely a downward slope. If I remember correctly, I didn't like the second one, but the third one, which was not seen by many people, I thought was better than the second one. I think it sort of picked up a little bit.
They get Reapy Cheap right, which is really all you need to do. Just don't mess up Reapy Cheap, and you're fine.
Who's Reapy Cheap?
The mouse with the sword, the swashbuckling mouse.
There we go.
Yeah. And by the way, he talks. He's a talking animal.
My number 2 pick, I go back to where it's just a single animal as the highlight here. And this qualifies for Matt's list as well. It's been dubbed one of the greatest movies of all time. I'm speaking of Paddington. Paddington
2
Paddington 2, to clarify, is where everybody says is one of the best reviewed movies of all time, and it's still to this day something like 99% fresh on the tomato, which is spectacular. Paddington is voiced by Ben Whishaw, who you would know this guy. He's been in various movies such as Cloud Atlas and tons of films.
Okay. Character actor?
More or less, but
Okay.
you would know him if you saw him. But Paddington needs to be sort of a soft-spoken, elegant voice, and Ben Whishaw nails the gentlemanly characteristic that we love about Paddington Bear. And everything about this character is quite hilarious. And yes, the second one added Hugh Grant, which just ballooned the whole thing up to a whole nother level. But the first one is well worth a spin as well. And I'm so happy to report they're making a third Paddington movie. So the fun is not going to stop here, Matt.
Okay, I have 2 questions. First of all, do you think the third will live up to the hype at this point?
Oh, yeah. These borderline on Wes Anderson territory as far as whimsical, and nobody else really does. It seems like he's in his own territory, and nobody ever really challenges him there. The Paddington movies, in a way, touch that a little bit, and there's something just lovely about Paddington that I think everybody, if they've seen the first and second, there's no way they're going to screw up the third.
I've seen the first, still haven't seen the second, which is, again, largely considered one of the best movies of all time. Just have not gotten to it. Need to do it. My other question was, were you familiar with Paddington?
I was not. I knew of him, but I didn't know. I never read, what was it, comic book or children's book?
Oh no, I think they played Paddington shorts on Sesame Street or in between Sesame Street on PBS.
My understanding was that it was like Winnie the Pooh adjacent.
Very much like the British Winnie the Pooh.
Yeah, which was already British.
Was it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was unfamiliar, more or less knew the character, but didn't know, much about him. And I love the movies.
I'm not going to argue. All right, that swings it to me, and we are into our number ones. And I'm going with the banger, the absolute masterpiece, The Secret of Nihm. And thank you, Phil. Phil is snapping.
They snapped.
I thought you were going Secret Life of Pets.
Now, this fits into my parameters because the rats of Nihm actually are intelligent in the world of humans. They are creating inventions and machines. They were experimented on and somehow developed intelligence. It's not exactly explained how field mice also have this intelligence enough to communicate with the rats of Nihm, but there's some leaps we must take. This was it Disney or was it
Phil is saying no.
Oh God, I'm so angry. It's
with
the guy.
Don Bluth?
Thank you. I was like the guy who left Disney.
Yeah, right. He also did Dragon Slayer, the video game. Anyway,
No, Dragon. It's not Slayer.
yeah, it is. Don't fight me on this, Phil.
Dragon's Lair. Not
Dragon's Lair. That's what I said.
You said Slayer.
I mean,
We'll roll the tape back.
That is a play on words that was very intentional.
Right.
Dragon's Lair. You're correct. My apologies. But in any case, Don Bluth animation, wonderful. Secret of Nihm. I'm finally reading the book, Mrs. Frisbee and the Rats of Nihm, which apparently is very different. So I'm going to find out exactly how. But that movie changed me. Oh, absolutely changed me. Because here's the thing, which we're going to talk about when we get to our Leo review. This movie doesn't dumb it down for kids. It doesn't hold any punches back. It's not schmaltzy or sugary sweet like that crap we just saw with Wish. It's actually a movie that doesn't insult your intelligence even as a child and says, hey, life can be hard. Here it is. I'm showing you reality, but there's still sweetness and magic in it. Wonderful, wonderful movie. Great adventure, too.
Solid movie. I haven't seen it in a long time, but not as good as my number one.
Ooh,
Also
bold
a
words.
masterpiece.
Okay,
Just a modern day masterpiece.
go.
But when you're talking animals, this cast is wonderful. I'm going with Wes Anderson's The Fantastic Mr. Fox.
All right.
We
True.
could argue they're both
They're in
great.
human worlds. Yeah.
Yes, and they are in human worlds. But the Fantastic Mr. Fox, the cast here, George Clooney as Mr. Fox, his wife Meryl Streep,
Done.
right there.
Yeah.
End argument. I don't have to go any further.
No, hang up the hat.
But then,
But you can is the point.
right. But then you have Jason Schwartzman as Ash Fox, the little kid, which is wonderful. Bill Murray as a badger. Hysterical. He's great with explosives, as he explains. Then my favorite voice performance actually in this movie, Willem Dafoe as the rat.
Willem Dafoe's always the best thing
So-
in every movie he's in.
So good as the rat in this movie. It's hilarious. And then you have Owen Wilson as Coach Skip, who's a river otter. And he also is just absolutely hilariously cast here. Because they're playing that like whack-a-mole kind of game. It's just so damn funny. But George Clooney, what a great cussing job he did as Mr. Fox. This movie is an absolute joy to watch. Honestly, I've seen this maybe more than I've seen any other Wes Anderson. I've seen Wes Anderson movies multiple times. I don't think I've watched any as much as I've watched Fantastic Mr. Fox.
I've seen it 2 or 3 times. Yeah.
I'm probably double digits on Mr. Fox. I love this movie.
I'm not going to argue with that. Mr. Fox is a great freaking movie.
Sure is.
Who played Christopherson too? I forget who it is, but that was also a great character.
Don't have it in my notes.
Also great
but yes.
performance.
Honorable mentions here, Matt. I had The Lion King. Obviously, some great voice work there.
Sure.
And speaking of Matthew Broderick, he was Simba.
And just to be clear, so we're talking about the animated one,
Right,
not
the animated
Donald
one.
Glover.
Yes,
and
animated one. Jeremy Irons as Scar. Earl Jones as what's his name?
Mufasa.
Mufasa. Thank you. Also had recent one. I was joking that I thought you were going to say The Secret Life of Pets, but if you haven't watched The Secret Life of Pets,
It's actually good. Don't
it is
sleep
pretty
on it.
damn
Yeah.
good. Yeah, there's 2 of them out there. Louis C.K.'s in there. And you also have Kevin Hart, Jenny Slate, Lake Bell, Dana Carvey, Hannibal Buress, who I just saw at the Chicago Theater.
Jenny Slate does some great voice work.
Great voice work,
She was
yes.
Marcel the Shell with shoes on.
Yep, absolutely was. And then last but not least, for an honorable mention, was Ratatouille. And that is
Sure.
all Patton Oswalt as Remy. I mean, I love that performance.
Right. I was pretty confident you'd have that on your list. All right. My honorables are Charlotte's Web. How do you not? I mean, did you have to watch that like in 6th grade, the movie?
I didn't have to, but I did at some point around then.
Right. They roll in the AV cart and the teacher takes a nap when they're hungover and you watch Charlotte's Web. And man, what a great movie. Great psychedelic scene in there. And then at my last honorable mention would be The Golden Compass. Didn't quite capture the magic of the Dark Materials books, but it's noteworthy. So it's an honorable.
I skipped this one. This is with Nicole Kidman and James Bond, right?
The Oprah
Yes.
one, right?
Did she produce it or something?
I don't
There's
think
one
so.
of the Oprah was in some kids.
No,
No,
I
that's
young-
A Wrinkle in Time.
Right,
Oh,
that's
okay,
what I was
okay,
going to say.
Yeah, no. This is based on his Dark Materials, which is a trilogy: The Golden Compass, The Subtle Knife, and some other device I forget right now. And anyway, the movie was okay. Obviously, they didn't make the other 2 books,
Right.
so it didn't go well enough. But I thought it was really good, and the animation was really cool. Like,
It's funny that I didn't even know you ever saw this movie, but
Yeah.
this was one of those that lines up with. I was kind of excited to see it because I knew of the books, but I had never read them, and I was like,
I've read the books.
I hope these are good. And then by the time it got to like digital and home release, everybody had already like crapped on it, and I just skipped it. I just never watched the movies.
yeah, I wouldn't say you missed too much. I mean, obviously those 2 performances are good with the 2 main. I would almost call them the villain and the villain's wife, kind of like a Magnifico and the Queen. But I even forget who the main character is. But the animals in particular are interesting and how they work in this fantasy world. Like the animals are like an extension of your soul, like you're familiar. It's interesting.
Jawheads, if we missed your favorite talking animal movie or performance and you have Twitter pulled up, shoot us a tweet. We're at Cinemajaw or an email. It's feedback@cinemajaw.com. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we have a new Adam Sandler movie to talk about, Leo. Very different type of Adam Sandler movie. Plus, Stump the Kubinski. Stick with us.
Let's all go to the lobby.
As a great character actor, it can be difficult sometimes to find clips of Paul Giamatti really acting his pants off. Hence, I'm going with the find him moment from The Illusionist.
I was wearing my locket when I died, but now it's gone. It's lost.
Tell us, please, who murdered you?
Was it the Crown Prince?
We must do something. Get up!
We must help her!
To the front!
Step up!
In the name of His Imperial Majesty and the city of Vienna, I hereby arrest Edward Abramovich, also known as Eisenheim the Illusionist, on charges of disturbing public order, charlatanism, and threats against the Empire. Get back, get back!
Time up!
Stop it, all of you! Find him!
Sparkling drinks, it all colored dandy, 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 dandy.
And we are back on Cinemajaw. Before we get to that Leo review and play some trivia, we threw a few items into the fish tank. Talk about talking animals. This fish likes to talk. Let's open up that fish tank.
Wait a moment! It's fish! Isn't it?
DC! Wake up!
No, Pat, it's a giant glass bowl. Hey, get some fish folk.
Who's coming with me besides Flipper? Here.
That's a Sicilian message. It means Luca Brasi sleeps with the fishes.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Thank you so much. It's wonderful to be out. I got to get it out there. Maybe it's because I had an 8% ABV beer. Maybe it's because of my own narcissistic ego that I'm not self-aware on.
Maybe it's both.
Maybe it's because I'm just a snowflake millennial. I don't know, but I gotta say I'm disappointed in you guys for not bringing up the cinematic masterpiece that counts on both your lists, Kangaroo Jack. Can you believe we had a talking animals and we didn't talk about Kangaroo Jack?
I honestly don't even know what Kangaroo Jack is.
Are you kidding me? You've never seen Kangaroo?
You blew it!
It's not good. It is actually awful, so don't go and see. But
Okay.
I love awful.
I love awful.
Jawheads will know my tastes are pretty typically like good is good, but awful is awesome. We had 3 items in here this week. Our first one, this was interesting. Has Paul Giamatti ever sang "Take Me Out to the Ball Game"? And right, like the vagueness and ambiguity of this question is, I would lean to say yes, ever in his life, but has it been recorded? No chance in hell. You bet your sweet boopy it hasn't been on there. However, you guys know me. I'm always trying to find supplementary things, and I did find, so our fact about him loving umpires, I actually found a clip of him talking about the same thing. So theoretically we could replace the Merlot clip with him talking about umpires in a weirdly fetishizing way.
Yes, please, let's do that.
We should state we're familiar with Take Me Out to the Ball Game being this tradition where celebrities sing it, but it's mainly a Chicago thing. So for jawheads around the country, they might not know this as much as we do. But
I didn't realize that was just us.
Yes,
that's the Cubs.
Just the Cubs have the celebrity come and sing "Take Me Out to the Ball Game."
A 1, a 2, a 3, yeah.
Doesn't happen anywhere else.
I'm learning something new. I thought that was everybody. I thought it was like the national anthem.
And honestly, it's only since the 80s, right, that Harry Carey started that.
Well, Harry Carey sang it all the time. He made it
when
super
he didn't
famous.
have a guest, but he would have...
No, he always sang it himself.
So it was after he passed?
After he passed, the Cubs then didn't know what to do.
So then we're talking about the 90s.
Yeah. At some point in the 90s, when he passed, then they turned it over to doing celebrities. And it's almost like a way to like promote a movie, or people come through Chicago.
Sure.
And they
Eddie Vedder has done it.
Right,
I mean,
tons.
Bill Murray.
Oh, yeah.
It's like pretty much anyone you can name.
Well,
except Paul.
Except for Paul Giamatti.
We don't want him.
Hey,
I think
we
Paul,
want him.
I actually remember I was on this email list as a Cinemajaw celebrity myself, which I have done this. I have seen Take Me Out to the Ball Game and a Cubs game. And Paul would you believe this son of a gun turned us down and said, I just want to be the umpire. This son of a bitch.
That's Paul for you.
What else we got?
Is the Phantom Tollbooth streaming, and what is the runtime? Great news. Not like superlative news. Sorry, guys, not on Hoopla. But it is streaming somewhere that is accessible to all of us for free on YouTube. The problem with free YouTube ones is they always come with ads, but you don't even need an account for this one, guys. You can just, from whatever device you're using, even if you don't have a Gmail or a Google, you don't need an account to watch free with ads YouTube movies.
Wow.
Nice. And the runtime?
Yeah, well, and that's a good point, too, because it's not long. It's only 89 minutes.
Yeah, I was
an hour and a
say
half.
it was under 90, yeah.
Right.
You could smoke a cigarette in that time, so
Yeah.
nothing's stopping you. And then our last question in here, when did the cable guy come out? We did not. We talked
bet on
about
this,
it.
right?
We
No,
did not.
we
We did
almost-
not.
okay.
We
almost
avoided
bet.
it because you were like,
I was scared
I'm
of
not
this
secure
one.
enough.
I
in
would
it,
say
which-
like 99. That's my guess.
Yeah, I was going to say right in there, it's between 97 and 99.
Which technically would make me win because you said the odds,
No,
right?
No, you said the
I
odds.
said the odds.
Jesus, you can't- that's why you can't bet with Matt Kay. You're switching everything
I'm
up.
backpedaling, yeah. All right.
You're both wrong. 96.
Ooh.
So even earlier than you guys think.
Yeah. I knew it was 90s.
All
That's
right.
all I'm saying.
Well, that's why I didn't bet, because I wasn't confident in my position.
I feel like
96.
2000s would have been like for how referential this film was, we would have gotten other TV than I Love Lucy. You know what I mean? Than
Yeah.
Star Trek and I Love Lucy.
Very true. Very true. There was a lot that came out. Yeah.
Simpsons would have been on there.
Even Family Guy? Had that started? Well, anyway, yes, I agree with you.
While we're in the fish tank, good time to announce we're taking off next week due to the Thanksgiving holiday.
Right.
So you won't hear a new Jaw for a week. Don't panic, Jawheads.
You know what you should do, Jawheads? Go back and listen to an old episode. In fact, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to repost one of our old ones.
I hate when you say this because by the time it's time to do that, you'll forget that you said this on the show.
Super easy to do. I'm just going to repost it. Boom.
You know, here's the thing. What you should do is a Jack C. Newell episode, because I'm tired of inevitably when we throw it in the fish tank, how many times has Jack C. Newell been on? I throw in the one extra helping that we do. Give me two. Give me a third helping of Jack C. Newell. This is what we all need in our lives.
Some more Jack C. Newell?
The director of How to Build a School in Haiti? Hell yes.
All right, we'll get together on this one, Phil. We'll get some Jack C. Newell for the Jawheads for Thanksgiving.
Also, while we're in the fish tank, making an announcement here, putting the pressure on. We have been doing the show for 14 years, and we have never done a secondary podcast that changes. We decided
Wait, a secondary podcast that changes, or
No, that changes
today?
changes today.
Period, not comma.
Got it. You really got to stress that. Period.
Because we are going to launch a secondary podcast entitled The Movie Roundup. What is the Movie Roundup, you're wondering? This is when we have seen more movies than we can get to just on Cinemajaw, because especially this time of year, Matt, we are invited to quite a few screenings.
And we get screenings to watch at home.
Screenings to watch at home, and I have more time on my hands than Matt Kay, who's got a couple of kids. I see a lot of movies, and I don't know what to do with. I want to talk about these movies. This gives us a little extra space to do a secondary podcast. Right now, it'll be made available to our Patreons. What we do with it in the future, we'll see. But for now, if you're a Patreon, look for it coming very soon. Multiple episodes of the Movie Roundup. These will be short, concise reviews of movies.
Yeah, that should be noted, because the Jaw can be long.
Right.
These are going to be 10-minute episodes.
Right.
Ish.
Exactly. Right to the point. But for instance, earlier, and I did want to mention something about this movie. I saw Thanksgiving, the new Eli Roth horror film.
Perfect place to start.
And I wrote a review, and that will show up on the Roundup podcast. But I do want to say, Jawheads, this is a big surprise how good this movie is.
Eli Roth is no slouch.
So I do want to mention, if you get a chance to see Thanksgiving movie, it was a total blast. But this is exciting. We're going to start with a couple episodes of the movie Roundup for the Patreons. Exciting, right?
Very exciting.
All right. I think that's it now. You can jump back in that fish tank.
Will do.
Speaking of anthropomorphic animals, Adam Sandler is no stranger to animation, having voice work in 8 Crazy Nights and a slew of Hotel Transylvania movies. In his current era of filmmaking, which I will call the Happy Madison Family era, he is at it again, this time as a wizened old pet lizard in a classroom named Leo. But can this reptile regrow lost limbs, or is it just a molted skin? Ryan and I took our assigned seats to find out.
All right, another year, another batch of 5th grade head cases.
Let's just get through it.
I hope everyone's met our class pets, Leonardo and Squirtle. I'm not touching those things.
Don't they eat, sleep, and poo in the same place?
Hey, I poo where he sleeps.
Rye, here's the synopsis. Leo the lizard has been stuck in the same Florida school for decades. When he learns he has only 1 year left to live, he plans to escape to freedom, but instead has to rescue his class from their horribly mean substitute teacher. Leo, of course, is voiced by Adam Sandler himself, and his aquarium mate, Squirtle the turtle, is hilariously voiced by Bill Burr. The two make a great duo, and their friendship is central to the film. What really makes this movie stand apart from the other talking animal animations is the credit it gives to 5th or 6th grade level kids for having a sense of humor. There are potty jokes, yes, but even the potty jokes push the envelope. This is, dare I say it, an edgy kids comedy. Another highlight is the unpredictable script. You think it's going to have one focus, and then it shifts to another. There's no hand-holding in Leo. The script is smart, and it doesn't insult the intelligence of its audience, young or old. 2 more quick points. The children all get a little screen time, which I think will make Leo relatable to many different kinds of kids. Also, it needs to be noted that there are several musical numbers throughout, but I would hesitate to call this a musical. But let's start there, Rye. The music was almost used for more visual gags. What did you think of it?
The music?
The music. Let's start with the music.
Okay, I wouldn't classify this as a musical either.
Same.
So I'm in the same boat with you as well. I thought the music was used rather effectively. And I have to say, this is a kind of a strange movie. I love that you called it an edgy kids movie, because somebody asked me, I said that I saw this as a screener, and they said, well, what kind of movie is this? I said, it's almost part educational, like for younger kids, but it has that Adam Sandler edge comedy to it, which is a very odd mix, because we're talking about movies that I would actually say Leo is appropriate for a 10-year-old.
Yeah, of course. I would too.
8-year-old, 10 years old.
But it pushes the envelope at the same time, right?
Right, yeah. But I mean, there is some educational value here.
No doubt.
Even more so than like what I'm talking about, like a Pixar or Disney movie. Yes, there's educational value here, but this really felt like you could put a kid in front of like a PBS show that the kids
There's
watch.
some
lessons learned here, and you really feel that in Leo, but yet it was funny and entertaining for an adult. Thus, I would say it is really perfect if you have a kid in that, I'd go even as young as 6 years old. I think they would enjoy this movie. If you got like a young 5-6-year-old,
6 to 11,
yeah, age range, you could sit there and watch this and laugh, and they're going to enjoy it just as much, if not as more than the adults. But you're both going to get a kick out of this movie.
Totally agree, man. So what was is that kind of your overall assessment?
That's my overall assessment. And as far as the music goes, wouldn't classify this as a musical, but thought it enhanced the movie. And I enjoyed the music. It wasn't like a deterrent, but I wasn't necessarily like Wish, where it was overly produced either, where you're like, wow, what a musical number. It wasn't like that either.
They just kind of go into them, come out of them, maybe go back into them. It's not a musical at all.
How do you equate it to like 8 Crazy Nights? Because it sounds very similar.
I have
in
not
that
seen
regard.
that.
Oh, you never saw it?
No.
Okay, so
actually pretty good.
That's a fair question. So I would say that this is between 8 Crazy Nights and Hotel Transylvania. Like if those two had a baby, as Ryan likes to do, it would be right in the middle of those. It's not schmaltzy like Hotel Transylvania, and it's not crass like 8 Crazy Nights, which I love, by the way. I'm crass in a good way. It's right in that sweet spot, and it doesn't insult the intelligence of, like I said, the audience. I like this. It's a weird sweet spot.
Yeah. So this is written by that Robert Smigel, who is the Triumph the Insulting Dog, among other things. A great comedy writer.
Insult comedy dog. Yeah.
Right. Whatever the
For
name
me
of
to poop on.
Right. That guy. and I wonder that Robert Smigel has kids. This was definitely seems like almost like a passion project. Wouldn't you agree?
I don't know. No, I mean, no. Adam Sandler's entire career is a passion project.
I know, but I guess what's odd is I would say this movie doesn't seem to me like Robert Smigel and Adam Sandler get together and they're like, this is what we're going to do, make an educational movie for kids. That's what I mean by like, oh, he must have been spurred on by his kids or nieces and nephews.
Maybe. That's why I mentioned in my at the top of my review that this is a new era of Happy Madison, right? Because we had the I'm going on vacation with my friends era, and now Sandler's kids are entering their teens, and I think he's embracing being a dad more. And he's like, I don't even want to leave my house. I'm just going to go to a animation voice studio, you know? Like, he's wearing cargo shorts that whole time. It's great. I want to see more of this from him.
So one of the things where I thought the film was actually going to let me down was once we get the hook, which is that the kids have to take Leo home each weekend. And basically, we're going to see the main kids.
It was going to get repetitive.
It was going to get very repetitive because each kid is going to have a weekend with Leo. And the very first time Leo comes out and is able to talk to the student, again, we're talking animals because it ties in here. It's interesting, and the girl's taken aback by Leo being able to talk, and I enjoyed it. But I thought, oh my God, are they going to do this another 8 times? I'm going to shoot myself. But yet, they were all different enough.
Well, and they don't do it all 8 times.
Exactly. It's very much like when you're doing a movie where it repeats itself, like
There's
Groundhog Day.
montage.
There's a little bit where the day shortens, and the lesson learned is condensed very quickly. So
And
they
then
do that.
Right.
So that helps it a lot. But the kids were all great in there as well.
Right.
And they all had their own problems. They all
very
have,
relatable.
Right. They're all dealing
Different.
with difficulties in their lives that we can all relate to on some level. So that worked as well. Hats off to them.
I totally agree. So we mentioned Sandler. Were there any other voiced, and Bill Burr?
Bill Burr is actually, I thought Sandler at first was going to take me out of it because he's got such a distinct voice. But after about 15 minutes, I was totally down with him being the lizard. I thought it actually fit pretty well.
He did just enough of a voice that it was perfect. Yeah, I agree.
Bill Burr as the turtle.
Almost unrecognizable.
And hilarious. I loved their chemistry. I thought the voice work by Burr there was great. So those two being in the aquarium, and like every time he would come back, because yes, he was getting injured, his tail gets cut off, he's got a weird Band-Aid on, and just the stuff that would happen as Leo would come back to his buddy in his aquarium. Those little conversations they would have were awesome.
I agree. This was way better than I thought it was going to be, Ryan.
I was shocked as well. I definitely am recommending this one as well.
All right. Well, let's get into it. Do you have a jaw-dropping moment?
So there's a couple that I need to mention a few of these and get your take on this. There's a joke about him being 75 years old or thereabouts. And as you mentioned, he has 1 year to live. That plays out later on in the movie. I thought that was funny, that why they would think that lizards, just because one person says 75, they're set on that 75. Thought that was great. The very first time Leo gets taken for the weekend. There is this great animation where the POV is of Leo inside a little to-go aquarium.
I know exactly what, and you see his face.
And you see his face reflected in the aquarium, but the way they carry it around through the house, that was a complete highlight for me. And this is maybe 45 seconds, maybe a minute long. I mean, it's not very long, but enough where I wrote it down while I was watching it. I thought, that was fantastic little thing that they had there. That was great.
I noticed that too. It was really good.
And then the first time he's in the girl's room on the weekend, obviously he wants to escape to the real world, and he gets his chance out of the aquarium. They're eating dinner, and you know how slow lizards are. He's going to make the trek from the aquarium to the open window, which is a small bedroom away. And an hour and something goes by, and he's only made it, 3/4 of the room because the lizard's moving so slow. I appreciate those kind of jokes. It was great.
There were some great jokes. My jaw-dropping moment was the Don't Cry song. Because here's where I thought it was going to go off the rails. I'm like, oh, he jumped the shark. He went too far with this Don't Cry song. Because the reasons that Leo gives the student to not cry are actually not the best advice. Like, up to this point, he'd been giving solid, heartfelt, good advice. Like, objectively good from a parental point of view. And then the Don't Cry song was like, But then the way that the girl takes it, she internalizes it in a different way, like indirectly, and she gets to the right message from the Don't Cry song. So that was my jaw-dropping moment.
Yeah. Good one. Movie poster quote?
A surprisingly edgy kids comedy that won't insult your intelligence no matter your age, unless you're in kindergarten.
I went with, like having a pet lizard. Kind of cool.
Yeah. How many jaws, right?
2.75 on this one.
I went ahead and gave it the solid 3 jaws. I'm going solid 3. Nothing to complain about in this movie. It's a good movie.
Leo will be streaming on Netflix, I believe, already, Jawheads. If not, it's the 21st. It's either the 17th or the 21st, but it will be streaming on Netflix. I watched this having a few adult beverages on a Friday night and enjoyed it. But again, if you got a kid in that perfect age range, as we mentioned, somewhere between 5 and like 12, watch this one for sure with them. You'll both love it.
Oh, absolutely.
All right. We ready to play some trivia, Matt?
I'm ready.
In honor of Chris Pine, who is in the wonderful movie Wish, coming out on November 22nd, we're playing Chris Pine movie trivia. You need 3 or more correct not to be stumped. Are you ready, Matt?
I'm a pine nut.
Question 1. Besides Chris Pine, name the 3 other leads in Don't Worry, Darling. You'll remember, Jawheads, I came on and trashed Don't Worry, Darling. And then Matt caught it a week later and came on and loved it. High praise for Don't Worry, Darling. Now, can you remember even one other actor in the movie? By the look on his face, I'd say no. Chris Pine and who?
Okay. Chris Pine and the girl from Midsommar, and
Pugh.
Yeah, Florence Pugh, and the director. Oh, man.
My God, this isn't even that wild of a question.
Olivia Wilde. Thank you.
Wow. That's 2.
I got to name 3?
Yes.
Seth Rogen in there?
No.
Come on.
We're looking for Harry Styles. Harry Styles. Matt.
I got that one right. I'm giving myself a point.
That is incorrect. I'm giving you 2 clues, and you couldn't even get Harry Styles? My goodness.
It's been a long day, Jawheads.
Question 2, Matt. Chris Pine has made one movie with Meryl Streep. It was a musical. I mentioned his musical
Into the
chops.
Woods.
Yes, he was in Into the Woods. You are right on that one. Question 3. Chris Pine, get a load of this. I couldn't believe this fact. Chris Pine made 3 superhero movies in 2017, 2018, and 2020. Name all 3 films.
Do you count Star Trek as superhero?
No. 3 superhero films.
He would have been a great Aquaman.
2017, 2018, and 2020.
I really don't think that Momoa was the right Aquaman. I mean, like, I love Momoa, and he is a sight to behold. But, like, Chris Pine just kind of looks like the Super Friends version of Aquaman. You know what I'm talking about?
He's handsome but dorky, too.
Yeah.
Which is essential.
Right. Superhero movies with Chris Pine. They're not, I'm guessing, Marvel. Nor are they DC, as far as I know. Shit, what was he in?
Is this, to be clear,
are they animated?
This is superhero movies, but he's not necessarily the superhero.
Right. I didn't say he was the superhero.
Okay, this changes things.
Oh, thank you. You just unlocked it.
That should have been more clear.
Wonder Woman.
That should have been more clear.
2017.
Wonder Woman 1984.
That was 2020. So what was in between that he was in?
He makes an appearance in a flashback in the Justice League, the Snyder Cut. Yes, he does. Yes, he does.
Well, we were looking for the Spider-Verse, Into the Spider-Verse.
But he's also in the Snyder Cut, dude.
Is he?
Yes. Look it up,
Into
Phil.
the fish tank, Phil. All right. That one's incomplete at this moment. Question 4 we move on to. We'll get that at the end of trivia. End of trivia. We'll figure that out.
All right.
Question 4, Matt. Who played Chris Pine's brother in Hell or High Water?
That other guy.
Yeah, we love that guy.
Was he that guy we were talking about earlier? No.
Didn't come up on today's show.
He's not Alan Tudyk.
No.
Oh, he's the dad from Leave No Trace.
Yes, that guy.
Man, he's good. Ben Foster.
It is Ben Foster. Wow, pulled that one out of his ass, let me tell you. All right, that is 2 correct. Might not even need the incomplete one if you get this one correct, Matt. Besides Chris Pine, name 3 other actors from Star Trek, 2009.
Zachary Quino.
Correct. 1.
Is Simon Pegg.
2.
And dude, is it Rosario Dawson? Who plays Uhura? Zachary Quino, Simon Pegg. Oh, wait. Any of the Star Trek movies?
No, 2009.
The J.J. Abrams.
The J.J. Abrams one.
But he made multiple ones.
Right.
Okay. Cumberbatch.
I mean, he was in this sequel. I wanted you to go off the 2009 one, but we'll give it to you. You were thinking of Zoe Saldana.
Okay. Damn it.
But you could have went Leonard Nimoy, also appears.
Oh, true. That's a bit of a cheat. Yeah.
Carl Urban.
Yes.
Is in there. John Cho.
He's Bones.
Yeah. John Cho also appears.
Yeah.
Eric Bana was the
first villain.
Anton Yelchin, who
who sadly passed
away. And Thor himself, Chris Hemsworth, plays his dad in the first one. You could have mentioned him as well. So, but we will give you that one.
The Abrams Star Trek movies are maligned by most Trekkies. I think they're pretty good. Stand by that.
What did we find out on the Chris Pine being in
the Snyder
Justice
Cut
League? Oh, Snyder Cut.
I can't find it anywhere. I do find connections that you can find.
He would just be in IMDb. He's either
Batman v Superman.
I told you he was not in there.
Even his cameo appearances from Wikipedia are not showing.
But I am not stumped this week.
No, not stumped. Not stumped. And look who's laughing now. I will say, 3 out of 5, not bad, Matt, even though you needed a little help on that last one.
You're a pine nut.
And the first one, too. I'll take it.
Good stuff. Brings us to the end of a very fun and entertaining Jaw. First and foremost, we got to thank our editor, our producer, Fill Me In Phil.
What you guys have to know about me, I am so thankful to Matt I'm so thankful to Ryan. I'm thankful to Cinemajaw. I'm thankful to Walt Disney for not only manufacturing my dreams, but giving me this Wish Upon a Star light up cup for the premiere of Wish. And most importantly, not that I don't love these two and I don't love this show, we're so thankful to the Jawheads. It's that time of year where we acknowledge you often, but let it be known.
Well said,
That's what's
Phil.
at our dinner table. That's what we're saying grace to on this show is you.
Well said. Thank you to the Jawheads. Thank you specifically to the Patreons. And we got some new Patreons who joined us, which is always exciting. Thank you to the new Patreons for joining the family. If you want to join us there, go over to patreon.com/Cinemajaw and join us. As I said, be on the lookout for a smaller podcast called The Movie Roundup.
And in addition to that, we already have bonus content we just dropped from last week's episode. So if there's any funny outtakes and stuff like that, like we drop stuff from time to time. So join us. It's fun.
It absolutely is. The other way you can support the show, if you can't do it over on Patreon, is just leave us a review or a star rating wherever you're listening to this podcast. Those help attract new listeners. So that would be just wonderful. Thank you, Jawheads.
Yeah. Click buttons for us. We appreciate it.
Absolutely. Until next week, I'm Ryan the Movie Guy.
I'm Matt Kay, and keep on jawing about the movies.